what's the next book of the Bible?
Right. Thanks for keeping us on target, Buck. Sunday school lady, can you help us out?
Happy to oblige. The second book of the Bible is Genesis, Exodus. Exodus is the story of the Israelites in Egypt and Moses and the Red Sea and God's rescue plan really kicking into gear.
But what kind of a word is Exodus anyway?
We can explain that. Pastor Paul?
The word Exodus comes from the Greek word exodos, meaning a going out or departure. Exodus means you're leaving. Time for me to make a bit of an exodus myself, Winifred.
Where are you going?
To the bathroom. Too much tea.
Hurry back.
I can't make any promises. So who's leaving, and where are they leaving from? And why? And where are they going?
Oh, I see we have lots of questions today. Magic Flannel Graph, let's help 'em out. The book of Genesis ended with Joseph bringing his dad Jacob and all his brothers to Egypt to live, to save them from a famine. Well, they all liked Egypt, so they stayed. 100 years later, Jacob's grandkids and great-grandkids and great-great-grandkids numbered in the thousands. 100 years after that, they numbered in the tens of thousands. After another 100 years, well, you see where this was going. As Exodus begins, Egypt has a new king called the Pharaoh, who didn't know anything about Jacob or Joseph and wasn't real wild about all these foreigners popping up everywhere. He was afraid these Hebrews, as they called the children of Jacob, might rise up one day and take over Egypt. So he made them slaves and had them work hard making bricks and building cities for him. But still, Jacob's kids had even more kids, so Pharaoh did something terrible. He said that all new Hebrew babies that were boys should be thrown into the Nile River and drowned. Isn't that awful? But Exodus is about God's promises to Abraham, that his children would be a great nation that would have its own land and bless the whole earth. And God never forgets his promises.
It seems like that rescue plan is a little bit stuck.
Yes, for almost 400 years, the children of Israel, that's what we call them because Israel was the new name God gave Jacob, the children of Israel seemed stuck in Egypt. Abraham's descendants were certainly multiplying, but they weren't getting their own land, and they were slaves. But God was about to get his rescue plan back in gear, as it's time to meet one of the most important people in the Bible and in all of history, a guy named Moses. Have you heard of him?
This is a story about a boy. His name was Moses, and it brought his mom such joy. She had to hide him, it makes me shiver, to keep old Pharaoh's men from throwing him in the river.
A Hebrew baby was born and hidden in a reed basket at the edge of the Nile River. And who should find him but Pharaoh's own daughter, who adopted him and named him Moses. He was raised in the royal palace, but still knew he was a Hebrew, a child of Israel. And one day, when he saw an Egyptian beating another Hebrew, he got so mad he sorta overreacted.
Did he call him a name?
No. He killed him.
He what?
Yep, he killed the Egyptian.
Well, that couldn't have gone over very well.
No, it didn't. When Pharaoh found out, he said Moses had to die, and so Moses did what most sensible people would do.
What's that?
He took off running.
And now he's running for his life, out to the desert where he finds himself a wife.
Her name's Zipporah.
And now he's hiding out with his sheep, 'cause he knows back in Egypt he's in trouble deep.
Now, you probably know this story. So Moses is in the desert when God shows up in a bush.
Wait, God is in a bush?
Well, he's speaking through a bush. Not an ordinary bush, though. It's burning. That makes it more dramatic.
Right, I can see where that would make it more dramatic. Right, more dramatic than a regular bush. But what if the bush was a dancing bush or a juggling bush? That'd be dramatic, wouldn't it? Let's stay focused. Sorry.
Ahem. So God tells Moses to go back to Egypt and tell Pharaoh to let his people go. And Moses says, I don't want to. And God says, I want you to. And Moses says, I can't. And God says, you can. And Moses says, will you come with me? And God says, of course I will. And so Moses goes back to Egypt to face down Pharaoh.
This is a story about a man who faced a stubborn king that didn't understand that when you park your stubborn self right in God's way, let's just assume you're gonna have a lousy day. Oh, there were gnats and frogs, and the river turned to blood, and there were flies and boils, and the cows fell with a thud, and then the locusts came and ate up all the crops, and there was hail and darkness, but he wouldn't stop saying no.
That's right. Pharaoh still wouldn't let them go, so God had to do something very serious. Remember about the Egyptians drowning the Hebrew baby boys? Well, sometimes bad things you do have a way of coming back to you. The final plague was the death of Egypt's firstborn sons. It was terribly sad, but it finally convinced Pharaoh to let the children of Israel go.
To protect their own sons from the final plague, God told the Israelites to sacrifice a spotless lamb, a lamb without flaw, and put the blood on the doorposts of their homes. The angel that brought death to the Egyptian sons saw the blood on the doorposts and passed over the Israelite homes. Jewish people celebrate this miraculous part of God's rescue plan each year with a festival called Passover.
Wait a minute. What was so special about that lamb that it could save the life of a boy?
There was nothing special about the lamb. It was just a regular lamb. But God used a spotless lamb as a lesson about sin and a sign of something that would happen much later in his rescue plan.
So, what was the lesson?
He was reminding them that the price of sin is death. Death was coming to the Egyptians that night because of their sin. But the Israelites weren't perfect either. In 400 years in Egypt, most of them had forgotten all about God. They were doing whatever they wanted to do. So the lamb at Passover was a reminder that sin takes our life away. Rather than losing their sons, God let them use lambs as a sacrifice for their own sin, to take the place of their sons.
That sort of reminds me of Abraham and Isaac. What do you mean? Well, God provided that ram to take the place of Isaac. Isaac didn't have to die. Instead, the ram took his place on the altar. Oh, it's connected.
Yep, God does that a lot. The ram instead of Isaac and the lamb instead of the sons of Israel are both signs God used to point ahead to his ultimate rescue plan, his ultimate plan for saving us from the power and the price of sin.
Ooh, tell me that part.
I can't. It's in the New Testament, and we're not there yet.
Rats.
I'm back. What did I miss?
Oh, there were flies and frogs and bugs, and all the cattle died.
Sounds like a visit from my nephews. So there you have it. Exodus. God rescues his people from Egypt. Next time we'll...
Wait a minute, Buck. We're not done yet.
What?
We're only halfway through Exodus. Exodus has 40 chapters. We've just covered the first 18. We've got 22 to go.
Oh dear. How we doing on time? Can I get a bottle of water or something?
So Moses leads the Israelites out of Egypt. They cross the Red Sea.
Oh, I remember this part. They walked through on dry land with the fishes just staring at them. It doesn't say the fishes were staring at them in the Bible. Well, it doesn't say they weren't.
Fellas, we don't know if the fish were staring at him or not. Anywho, Moses led them out of Egypt into a mountain called Sinai, somewhere in the Sinai Peninsula. We don't know for sure where it was. Some believe it was here.